Hello, my name is Emily. Please excuse the very makeshift setup. I do not know if this is going to be the final video or if this is my trial run and I'm going to do it for real tomorrow. I haven't decided yet. Anyway, I'm going to share today a project that has dominated the last 5 months of my life called The Fool's Journey Tarot. Tarot is something that only became a part of my life very recently, but it sparked my creativity. To me, tarot is a way to help organize my thoughts and bring my awareness into certain aspects of my life that I might be neglecting. It's not a way to foresee the future, it's a way to piece together the puzzle of life. In the fall of 2018, I decided I wanted to create a tarot deck for a few reasons. On one hand, I had read that it's important to use a deck you have an affinity to. And on the other hand, I was dying to start some sort of art project. I thought it was something I could work on in my free time, but then life got in the way. One of my professors, Mitch Blessing, told me there was a class I could take where I could just work on this project, so I signed up for it. And I'm happy I did, because it gave me access to resources I needed and it kept me motivated. From the start of this project, the major arcana came to me as humans with animal heads, sort of like depictions of ancient Egyptian gods. Knowing what I wanted in my cards made it pretty easy to start out. Now, I'm not an expert when it comes to tarot, and I don't have a lot of experience reading, but I'll give a rundown of some of the cards and why I illustrated them the way that I did. Number 0 in the major arcana is the Fool. There are 22 major arcana cards, and the Fool is the first of them. It symbolizes journeys, innocence, idealism, spontaneity, risk-taking, and new experiences. This card often represents the querent in a reading, and the other major arcana are seen as the trials and experiences of the Fool's journey through life. The Fool is, for better or worse, innocent of the world and somewhat naive. My depiction of the Fool is that of a golden retriever. In my mind, golden retrievers are curious, friendly, and willing to go on spontaneous adventures at any time. They're innocent animals that always expect the best out of people and situations. The Fool carries a rucksack, and the mountains behind her represent the countless adventures she'll go on. The rising sun signifies the beginning of something, and the daisy tucked into her ear is a sign of her pure heart and innocence. Card number 1 is the Magician. The Magician symbolizes concentration, ambition, learning, transformation, and achieving your goals. He's a being of progress and creative power. I chose a badger for the Magician because they're strong and ambitious animals. They can't be stopped by the sting of bees, much like the Magician won't be stopped by the sting of a temporary failure. The infinity symbol, wand, and serpent are often depicted on the Magician. They are symbols of ingenuity, power, and worldly wisdom that the Magician possesses. Card number 2 in the major arcana is the High Priestess. She possesses intuition and spirituality. She's a card of magic, dreams, and secrets. She represents the ancient wisdom and all the fertility of the mind. With that in mind, I used the wise-eyed nocturnal bird of prey, the owl, for this card. There's a hint of darkness in the depths of this card, but she can be gentle, telling the querent to tap into their unconscious mind to find advice and answers. Her ethereal wisdom is represented by the glowing moon and the lotus flower. The small crown hovering over her head displays the power she holds over her domain. Number 3, the Empress. The Empress represents passion, fertility, abundance, contentment, motherhood, the arts, and prosperity. She's the pinnacle of conventional femininity and the strength and nurturing wisdom that comes from motherhood. I chose a tigress for this card because the Empress is often mistaken as weak. In fact, she has a serene and patient inner strength. She is surrounded by orchids and carnations, flowers of motherhood and fertility, and in her arms are the fruits of labor. 4. The Emperor. The Emperor is the male counterpart to the Empress, the animus to her anima. He is the epitome of masculinity and authority. He is the father figure of the arcana. Leadership, structure, discipline, maturity, and also stubbornness are his traits. I chose a large-horned bull. Cows are pacifist animals, but their size and horns make them intimidating and sometimes dangerous. The Emperor does not take pride in violence, but carries potential for it and understands it is sometimes necessary. He is bathed in golden light and saturated red robes, signifying his status and authority. 5 is the Hierophant. He is the male counterpart to the High Priestess. Learning, study, community, organizations, religion, convention, and tradition are what he stands for. The Hierophant finds comfort in tradition and teaches the fool the value of organized communities for learning. I made the Hierophant a ram, which is a male bighorned sheep. Rams have biblical significance as protectors of the herd and sacrificial animals. He wears the stole of a religious leader. 6. The Lovers. Commitment, partnership, friendship, attraction, marriage, and communication. This card is fairly literal and self-explanatory. I used swans because swans are monogamous birds and are often seen as a romantic symbol. Card 7 is the Chariot. The Chariot symbolizes focus, ambition, progress, sacrifice, forward motion, and travel. I chose the cheetah for this card for hopefully obvious reasons. Cheetahs are well known for their running speed. To further the symbolism of progress and motion, I gave the chariot wings. The crown of laurels represents achievement and evolution, and the shield has the symbol for the astrological sign Cancer, which is associated with this card. Card 8 is Strength. Strength represents courage, love, patience, balance, motivation, and inner strength. Strength is a card that urges you to look inward to find strength rather than outward. The card often depicts a young woman communing with a lion, so I used a lioness for the character on my card. She's surrounded by flowers in a tranquil garden. Over her head is the infinity symbol, showing her patience and balance. Card 9. The Hermit represents solitude, self-awareness, soul-searching, patience, withdrawal, reluctant leadership. The Hermit is about self-reflection and taking your time to search for life's answers within yourself. The Hermit holds a lantern to guide him through the pale moonlit night. The 6-pointed star in his lantern represents knowledge. He's a strong being who treads softly. 10 is the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of Fortune represents optimism, success, change in fortune, new beginnings, perseverance, and chance. The Wheel of Fortune is about life's cycles and the aspects of luck. It says, control the things you can, but don't despair over the things you can't. When the wheel swings downward, think about what you can do to regain control, and don't resist change because the wheel will swing upward again eventually. I used an elephant for the Wheel of Fortune because in some countries elephants are symbols of wealth, luck, and wisdom. Below her is a wheel with symbols representing Aquarius, Scorpio, Leo, and Taurus. They are the fixed signs of the zodiac and so represent stability amidst change. Number 11, Justice. Justice represents karma, fairness, justice, honesty, balance, and reason. I chose a chameleon to represent justice, which is a rather uncommon depiction, but he is what came to me. Chameleons' eyes move independently, letting them see a wider picture, but the minute they find what they're looking for, both eyes will snap onto it. To me, this fit the idea of wading through life's sea of information and finally cutting through to the truth of the matter. Number 12, The Hanged Man represents crossroads, decisions, growth, discernment, change, and letting go. The Hanged Man is often depicted as hanging upside down by one leg. He is not stuck, and he could very easily leave, but his strange position is by choice. He is trying to find a different perspective on his situation. My card shows him as a raven, which are known for their intelligence and ability to adapt. Card 13, Death. Death is not as terrifying as people assume it is when it's being pulled. It represents change and transformation, renewal, destruction of the old, endings, and loss, but new beginnings in its place. Death is represented on this card by a skeletal figure with the skull of a horse, which is in reference to the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. His scythe is the tool for cutting down fields so that new things can grow in its place. And behind him is a single daffodil, which represents death on its own. The small blue butterflies disperse his ominous aura. Number 14, Temperance. Temperance is the card of balance, moderation, communication, the management of resources, art, and healing. Temperance is a card of intelligence and strength in moderation. Temperance came to me in the form of a lamb. This is the only card for which I don't have a reason behind the animal. A lamb just felt right to me. The wings symbolize higher intellect. Temperance wades in the shallow waters to test them before diving in, and the 2 buckets represent the sub and superconscious mind. Number 15 is the Devil. He represents bonds, failure, obsession, depression, materialism, lust, illusions, and temptation. The devil is often thought of as an external being, depicted in some contexts as goat-like in appearance. Thus, you may be tempted to think the goat on this card is the devil. In fact, man often creates his own bonds, allowing himself to succumb to temptations. In this card, the human-like figure is the real devil, because the devil is a reflection of our own human shortcomings. 16. The Tower. The Tower represents disruption, upheaval, change, liberation, divine intervention, drama, pride, and catastrophe. The Tower represents change in a violent and unpleasant fashion. The change may be sudden, forced, or unwanted. It means that when you make it through this catastrophe, something better will be waiting. I chose an African deer because deer of all kinds are known as easily frightened animals, much like the small men jumping from the tower to avoid the flames inside. This act in itself leads to catastrophe, representing that this change is unavoidable. 17 is the Star. She represents renewal, abundance, generosity, humility, intuition, faith, recovery, and hope. The Star is a very gentle card. It means that now is a time for you to release your negative feelings and focus on healing and positive transformation. Forgive, forget, and embrace new opportunities. The Star is often a woman, half in water, half on land, to represent her balance between rationality and ability and spirituality. She is also associated with the star sign Aquarius, so she protects a small water basin at her side. 18 is the Moon. The moon means intuition, instinct, deception, imagination, emotion, fear, illusions, dreams, and confusion. The moon is a very complex card. It represents the duality of a peaceful night and what may be lurking in the shadows. I used a wolf for its association with the moon. In his hands he holds a palm full of water, reflecting the moonlight and its eerie beauty. 19. The Sun. Prosperity, happiness, acceptance, joy, optimism, achievement, and friendship. The Sun is wealthy in all non-material things. She dances to spread her joy to others and shares her knowledge and experience. I drew a phoenix for this card, which, though not real, are believed to be intelligent and wise as they grow older over and over again. Their association with fire also made sense for this card. Card number 20, Judgment. Judgment represents resurrection, completion, good news, awakening, enlightenment, and progression. Snakes are often associated with the cycle of death and rebirth, such as with the Ouroboros. For this card, I imagined a serpent awakening to her true self as the sun is setting, and shedding the skin of her past self. Card number 21, the final card of the major arcana, the World. She represents the end of a cycle, completion, achievement, goals, travel, and success. For the World, I always imagined a dancer. I chose an antelope because as they run from predators, they will leap into the air as if it's a dance. I drew her gazing serenely at a gem, which represents all the knowledge, experience, and successes she has collected. She has reached the end of this journey. Will she relax and enjoy her success, or will she keep moving forward to the next adventure? I'm going to quickly break down the 4 suits, and then I'll tell you about my favorite cards from each. The cups are associated with the element of water, and are thus related to matters of the heart, emotions, relationships, creativity, spirituality, and the subconscious forces affecting your waking life. I've illustrated the cups with aquatic animals. The wands are associated with fire. They're cards of action. They deal with matters that require you to act, travel, pouncing on the opportunity, etc. I've illustrated my wand cards with predatory mammals. The swords are the suit of cold intellect, logic, and reasoning. They're associated with the element of air. Swords often deal with the material world rather than the emotional world, and can therefore sometimes seem judgmental or lacking compassion. I've illustrated the swords with birds. Finally, the pentacles are associated with the element of earth, because they deal with solidly material things. Financial success, prosperity, health, marriage, and family, and long-term success all fall under the pentacles. Because their element is earth, I chose animals with a close connection to the earth. Hooved animals and rodents. Now I'll move on to my favorite card from each of the suits. My favorite Cups card is the 7 of Cups. It's about picking an opportunity and actualizing it, instead of letting it die out as just a dream. It's about opening your eyes to the real world, instead of living in a fantasy. I drew a cuttlefish, which have incredible color changing and camouflage abilities. Especially the flamboyant cuttlefish, which just goes ham and turns purple and yellow and flashes different colors all over its weird skin. This cuttlefish has sunk into its own inky delusions, losing sight of the real world around him. It would be easy to swim out of this dark delusion if he so chose. It wasn't easy for me to choose a favorite from the wands. I really love a lot of the wand cards, but my favorite will always be the Queen of Wands. She's an incredibly charismatic, warm, feminine figure. She's independent, confident, and capable of great generosity and loyalty, but she's certainly no pushover. She's a strong leader, but if she takes that too far, she may have manipulative or domineering behavior. She can be dark and moody, like any powerful figure. All around her, the landscape glows brightly with the rising summer sun. She sits comfortably on her throne, the strength of her character and charisma emanating lazily off of her dark midnight coat. Again, I have a lot of favorite designs from the swords, but I'll just do one. The 8 of Swords implies some sort of isolation, self-imposed suffering, denial, or chronic negative thinking. My version has a parakeet, loosely blindfolded and in a cage of swords that are barely visible. The parakeet could very easily fly out if it chose to move forward. This implies that the real entrapment is a mental one. The bird may be confused and either can't or won't see its way to freedom. When you first look at this card, you should barely be able to see the bars. That is the perspective of an outsider looking at the situation this little parakeet is in. We often find answers for other people's problems, but they may not be willing to accept those answers, just like the parakeet. Finally, my favorite of the Pentacles is the Knight. Unlike many cards in the deck, the Knight of Pentacles is about slow, steady progression and careful planning. He's not impatient or rash, but has patiently worked towards his goal. He represents stability and dependability. The Knight of Pentacles is a large draft horse, large enough to plow the ground until it eventually bears fruit and flowers for his labor. I have to say, being able to make my own cards and put my own symbolism into them has helped me to learn and remember the meanings for a lot of the cards. This started as a side project, but I'm really glad it became more than that. This was always a project of passion, and I'm happy to be able to say that I finished it. One semester really isn't much time to take on a project like this. It was absolutely worth the horrendously long days and leaving the computer lab at 2 a.m. It was worth the nights where it was so quiet that I had to talk to myself. In the end, it was all worth the effort. I can't even imagine how disappointed I'd be in myself if I hadn't finished it. But I don't need to think about that anymore. Satchel, Mitch, Steve, Drew. I don't know if any of you will get around to watching this, but thank you. You all helped me in different ways so that I would be able to put everything into this project. I couldn't ask for a better bunch of professors, so thank you.